Oh, am I excited? That's right, we finally have the perfect fabric to back this awesome Wonky Log Cabin Quilt we've been working on for a while now. So let's throw this thing on the frame. Let's get started. Oh, it is an exciting day. That is right. We did find the ultimate fabric, and we will be talking about some machine quilting today on the frame, but I do need to give you all a disclaimer right now. I will not be running any thread. I will not be doing any physical machine quilting on this project, on this video, because I'm still in the practice phase on my new long arm over there, and I'm loading it so I will practice over our nice long weekend and enjoy myself while you're not watching. I'll get a little bit of extra camera work of that done. It'll probably be at the end of this video anyways, but we are talking today about how to load your quilt frame and specifically using Minky. That's right, a lot of us love to use Minky on the back of our quilt projects because it is so incredibly soft and snuggly, and it really does quilt up like a dream. Now, what you may not know is Michael Miller has some incredible printed Minky, and ours is of course better than the competitions, all the other guys out there, but there's a specific reason that I will tell you about in just a second after I say, hey, welcome everybody. I am Rob Appell, National Sales Manager at Michael Miller Fabrics, maker of fun, and I'm super excited you're back for another Wednesday installment of madness here in the sewing room, and I am super wound up about this project because we have been working on this really fun wonky log cabin. I have a couple different videos out there on how to build this project and how to work through some of the design elements and everything, and I've been waiting to find the perfect fabric. And I really think this awesome tie-dye print, which is from our Good Vibes Only. This is called Feeling Groovy, but the whole print line is called Good Vibes Only. It's really the perfect color match. It's the perfect feel for what I want to do with the quilting and everything. And I thought this is the best opportunity to share with all of you out there that Michael Miller does do our prints in Minky. So check this out, everybody. This piece here is a sample. This is actually all Minky fabric. And if you don't know what Minky is, it's a polyester fabric. It is wonderful to print onto, and it gives you that wonderful soft feel, right? You want to put it oh so snugly. That's why it's great for quilt backing, but for a long time it hasn't been, let me just move that a little bit, hasn't been the easiest to print on. So when I said we are better than the other guys, I truly believe that when it comes to the prints, because we use a little bit less fiber, a little bit less pile on the fabric. So it's still incredibly soft, but it's way easier to saturate our dyes deep into, right? So what you're really looking at right now, this is fun. This is some of our sales samples. This is the paper. This is the printed board from Good Vibes Only that shows you all of the different prints you just saw a minute ago flashing by. And just as a reminder, we do a ton of our prints on Minky, so it's super cool, and you can check those out right on our website, of course. But what I was starting to say is this is the paper version. This is the cotton feeler sample. This is what it looks like on our regular wonderful high density cottons. And then this here is what it looks like on our Minky. And one of the things with Minky, because it's got like a fur, it's a fiber, right? It's got a pile, it's got a texture, a direction. So if you rub it like a cat backwards, it's not gonna always look terrific. It's not gonna love it. So I'm abusing this Minky backwards. Hopefully you can see in the awesome overhead camera that you don't get much distortion of the design because the way we cut it allows our design process to go deep into the fiber, so it always looks terrific. So that's why we're so excited. Now we are going to put this big old chunk, and I have myself about 4 yards worth of our awesome Feeling Groovy Minky, right? And I don't need that much for this project, but I love the Minky, and I have other projects in mind. And so one of my tricks when loading my quilt frame is when I find a backing I like, and I've got a couple projects down the road I can use it for, I want to use a large piece on the frame so that I don't have to come back and reload, because quilt frames make our quilting so much more efficient on our calendar, but also on our body. So it's really fun. So one of the things, if you are familiar with Minky, and if you're not, I'm going to teach you right now, is Minky, because of the way the backing is created, it has a stretch to it, right? It has not a bunch, but it has some give in one direction, but not in the other. And that's what you really need to be learning and listening to in today's video. And in just a second, we will go over to the frame and put this on the frame so you can see how it works. But the selvages are the stabilized part of the fabric. In case you don't know how fabric is made, it's usually running through these big wheels. Think about that like your quilt frame, these big wheels or these big cylinders that it's wrapped on. And the selvages are going to be running perpendicular to those wheels. That's how you can help remember it. The selvage is stable, so it's going to be running edge to edge on those wheels to keep it from distorting as it's being worked on, as it's being printed, as it's being handled and finished and all of that kind of stuff. So with that said, when we load our Minky onto our frame, we always want to make sure we have enough. So I want to make sure I have between 4 and 6 inches on either side of my quilt as I'm getting ready. So mathematically, I've already accounted for that. And then front to back, I actually like to use even a little bit more. But remember, the back on this one, I'm just going to let it run long because this quilt is not a 4-yard quilt. Although I wish it was because it's pretty awesome, right? Okay, so hopefully that's the information that you've learned. As a recap, really, we're just going to take this over now to the frame, and I'm going to show you how to load the Minky so that the stretch of the back of the Minky is working in your favor. We're going to put this on so you have the print running correctly. And I'm also going to show you how to load in your batting because that's the other thing that I really think is key to using Minky on the back of our quilts, is using the batting also. That helps, again, not distort the backing of your quilt project. And that would happen with cotton also. That's why we're doing the quilting process, is to marry all of those layers together with thread. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to load this on. We're going to talk about the way, show you physically so you get it one more time in your head. We're going to throw that batting in there. Then we'll pull this off the design wall, start to drop it in, and then I will be out of here so I can get this thing all quilted. Are you ready? Okay, so to the frame we go. And as I get over to the frame, I'm literally just going to let it rest right here as I go ahead and pull out my leader strips. Now, I'm just going to use safety pins to go ahead and baste it on. I use the same safety pins I do if I'm regular standard. Why are they always all stuck together like this? Darn it. I'm just going to use my little curved safety ones that are for like my standard basting as well. Now, what I want to make sure I do, as I was saying earlier, this is that selvage. This is that stabilized edge. So this is going to be running along our frame. And so the first place we do is we get it onto our top leader strip, and we're going to make sure that it is print side down. So you might be wrestling with it a little bit, and that's perfectly natural. One of the things I love about working with the Minky is you notice we did not have to pre-iron or press this. You actually probably don't want to, being that it's poly-based, and if you do, use a real low temperature. So now as I bring it in over here, I also have these little markings that I've made with a Sharpie a long time ago, and that's my straight edge. And so as my straight edge, I'm just going to go ahead now and put a safety pin in right at the edge. And then I'm going to just come maybe, you know, a good quilting, a shaka distance here over, grab another safety pin, and basically making sure that I've got everything running fairly secure, fairly taut on this leader strip as I begin to put down the Minky, the print Minky. Just as a reminder, it's print side down because this is the back of our quilt. I'm using my thumb and my finger to kind of pinch. You can see that the line is running straight. The fabrics are nice and taut. And again, because there is stretch the way this direction across this top and or bottom, make sure you're not distorting it as you run it onto your leader strip. There's a natural curl to the Minky, as you see here, so that's not a concern of mine right now, because I know that as I'm bringing this up and I'm lining it up, it's matching up perfect. And I'm just putting in that safety pin. And after I go back, I reevaluate and I think, man, that's a little bit bigger than I like. So you could always put in another safety pin as you need. Now, the way this is set up, and you can actually start on the top leader or the back bottom leader, this is going to need to go underneath our extra bar. So I just like to let this now go back onto the bed of my machine. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because this is a lot of fabric. There's a lot of body here. And so you notice the bed of the machine is now actually taking up and doing the work for me. So it's holding all of that weight. As I come around here now, it's out of my way. And again, I'm going to go ahead and pull my next leader strip. So this leader strip for the top is for your quilt backing. So this one and this one is for your quilt backing. This one down here is where your quilt top will be. So now I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that my locking mechanism is unlocked. Open this up like this. And because the leader strips can actually slide up and down the frame, I'm not as concerned. I just kind of want to eyeball and make sure I'm going to do the same thing as I did before, where I line up the straight lines. Now on this strip, I actually like this trick because as I'm flopping it over, it's just a little easier to see. So I'm just lining up the edges as if I was doing my actual patchwork when I was building the quilt. And I just want to make sure that I've got myself lined up with my start point. So let's come down this leader strip a little bit. And now I'm just going to go ahead and put the pin through on this side. Either way will work because they're going to just be nice and flat as they stay in there. And I know there's a million different ways to set up your leader strips on your long arm. That's not what this video is about. This is about getting your Minky on the frame so that the stretch is working with you, not against you, and so that you can start enjoying quilting with Minky as so many of us love to do. I've accidentally got myself short-handed. I'm going to switch fingers, move on over, grab those safety pins a little closer. Just keep using those edges, working my way down. Now, after you get that last safety pin in the way, I strongly recommend you try to close up that box and set it somewhere out of your way because you know what's going to happen as we start to move this fabric. And as you know, all of us good quilters are generally barefoot. I only am wearing shoes today in case you can see my ugly toes. So back to work we go. Now that I've got this loaded, I want all of the bulk of the Minky down here on the beginning rail, right? And so what I want to do now is I want to start to move this in that direction, and I'm going to lock in my ratchet system now, and that's going to help everything settle in nice and secure. I'm going to push the machine out of the way if possible. Sometimes you have all of your expanse, so the fabric will be laying through the machine. But now as I go, I use a motion where I slide my hands and I give a little roll. I'm kind of sliding my hands and I'm giving a little roll. Here, I don't need a bunch of tension, but I am going to push the weight of the Minky now down onto the floor more, off of the table, so that that natural weight helps me as I begin to roll up the Minky on the back. My eye is looking along both sides to make sure those selvages are lining up ever so nicely, right? And we're not doing any stretch as we go. So nice and slow. Just maintaining, using your hands to smooth. Again, no reason to iron or anything like that. Watch for wrinkles as you come into the end because you have not as much gravity in your favor, not as much weight down here in your favor. Okay, now the next step is going to be go ahead and we're going to take up just a little bit. We need our Minky just past this bar. This bar is going to add enough friction and tension to really hold everything in place. So I want to lock in my upper ratchet as I slowly start to move this up here. Okay, and that'll also ensure that I'm not trying to stitch anywhere near my safety pin. So if you've heard your quilters talk about needing extra, especially the frame quilters, this is partly the reason why. We need to get just far enough over that we can at least start to lock down our batting as we go. We can put in a little tension if we need. I can go through here. And I see, and this is a really good teachable moment, is the front line of this isn't pulling perfectly straight. I can see I need a little more tension, and when I come to think about it, I got so excited about making today's video, I forgot to teach the number one step we should always do with all of our backing, whether it's cotton or minky, which is trim it and cut it and make sure it's perfectly square, that first edge and actually the bottom edge too, because you're using that to line it up onto your frame. So for that, I apologize. I'm just now realizing I missed a crucial step, but this is a video and it's already on the frame. So one of the things we do is we learn how to work through situations in our sewing room. So for this right now, I'm not going to panic because look, this part all looks terrific. So now I can just come over here, and while it's on this, I'm going to release this pin. I'm going to just bring it up higher onto the leader strip, and I'm going to pin back away and see that my tension's starting to hold better. And we're going to release these last two at the same time. And now we have a nice equal float and equal tension. And you can see it's fairly loose, but as I start to put a little extra tension and a little extra crank, that's going to go ahead and pull this nice and stabilized from front to back or along the selvages. So remember, your selvages run perpendicular, right, in the T shape to your rails, or just like we know how fabric is being made and produced and traveling on the rolls itself, because that's what the selvage is there for. Okay, now I want to finish up real quick. We were talking about what the next step is going to be, and that means I'm going to come down here where my batting is, and I'm going to bring my batting up through, and I'm going to lay my batting now on top of the minky. I'm going to pull it back just ever so slightly. And at this point, it's your preference how you do it, but I strongly recommend we baste the actual batting to the minky itself, right? So, or the backing of your project. So now I'm going to come in here with the machine, and this is how I like to do it. You can certainly do it with safety pins, but I'm just going to go ahead and tack it down with some thread. And right now you'll notice I haven't pulled any tension at all on the side of the frame because I want to be able to just come through here and float this, okay? Everything is just real natural feeling right now. Let's go ahead and set this. Make sure I've got my bobbin thread accounted for here. And now I'm just kind of use the rail and the machine itself. So I guess I did kind of fib a bit at the beginning of the video. I said I wouldn't be dropping any thread, but this is basting. This isn't quilting, so please forgive me. Or not, I'm still quilting, I guess. Okay, now as I come through here, I'm just nice and slow, letting that run ever so slightly, just letting that machine do the work. Trying to set a pretty nice and straight line across the top. And I did just stop because I saw that my batting was starting to shift and pucker up. So I'm going to take a moment and reevaluate, make sure everything's golden here. Now I've shifted hands, so I'm pinching over here on this other side as I come through nice and clean. Okay, so now that's finished. I'm going to go ahead and cut my threads. And I'm going to now move the machine back to the other side. Head over to the design wall. And as I grab this thing off of the wall, I'm just going to keep it up. So I've got my top. This has been pressed. I was getting it all nice and pressed before we got started today. And as I get ready now to drop this down, I'm going to use that straight line I created with my thread kind of as a top edge because I know that's the maximum reach of the machine. I'm going to lay this on here right now, and I have a couple of inches on both sides. So let's just center that a little bit better. Just like this. Now, this is one of the great debates in quilting, especially when it gets into long arming. And please forgive me, I am no expert on long arm machine quilting. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I am just learning. I am just practicing. I'm new to the long arm. And that's why you don't get to watch me machine stitch today. Just maybe a little B-roll in a moment. But Some of us like to float our quilt tops, just letting them hang over the batting, right? Some of us like to lock in the quilt top down on the bottom layer, on the bottom rack, so we can keep it a little bit more taut with tension. Now that I have the batting secured to the Minky, I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna give myself one more click. Hopefully you heard that on the frame itself. I can come in now and I can put my clamps through the batting and the Minky, and I'm not gonna pull this, I'm just gonna secure it. So I'm actually letting a little tension out here, making sure everything's nice. I'll do the same on this side over here. And now I've got plenty of room to work with in the quilt. I do need to change my thread color before I get started because I will base this on this quilt top just like I did the batting, but I'll use a thread color that matches so then I can just begin the fun and begin playing with this. And when it's all done, this is going to be a fantastic quilt and super, super soft on the back due to that beautiful printed Miller Minky. So I'm super excited that you got to see that here today. I really hope you enjoyed the video and you picked up the major trick was when you're loading the Minky due to the stretch, make sure that your selvages are running up and down the frame like this, perpendicular to your rails, and you'll have absolutely no problem stitching away. Use a bobbin thread that looks great because you will be able to see the stitching through that wonderful Minky fiber. And then my last tip is use a nice light batting. This happened to be the Hobbs Heirloom 80-20, so 80% cotton, 20% polyester, which is going to match with your quilt, which is going to be what, 100% cotton on the top and 100% polyester on the back. You're going to have some fun shrinkage. It's the other fun thing to talk about. If you do all of this with unwashed goods and then you put it in your washer and dryer, the poly won't shrink like the cotton will, and you'll get some really, really wonderful kind of more antique texture. So lots of fun things to do with quilting. As you know, that's why you're here, and we will see you next time with another fabulous installment of Making It Fun. Wow, you are still there. Thanks for sticking with me till the end of the video. I know, I get a little long-winded sometimes. But if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you check out a few of the other ones we've created. I think they're terrific. And of course, please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the little bell to be notified. I don't want you to miss a moment of the fun. Stay safe and happy sewing.